There are nights when you wish you had never left the house. Decisions that seem harmless can open the door to an unimaginable nightmare. In today's video, you'll hear true stories, ones that happened on New Year's Eve in a taxi, or even inside what you thought was the safety of your own home. These chilling experiences might make you rethink going out at midnight. Story 1. The woman on New Year's Eve. I'm not someone who gets spooked easily. I don't drink, don't use anything. But what I witnessed on New Year's Eve last year is burned into my memory forever. I live on the outskirts of a small town in the southern US. My best friend Darren lives with his family in a sparse suburban area, only accessible by a dark, winding road cutting through dense pine forest. Every year his family throws a New Year's Eve party, and I've never missed one. That night I was driving alone to Darren's house. The temperature had dropped suddenly, and a light mist hovered over the road, making the already dark country lane harder to navigate. I rarely use my high beams, but that night I had no choice. Thick woods on both sides, not a single street light. On a long straightaway, my headlights caught a figure standing still at the forest's edge. A woman wearing a long white dress, no coat in the freezing cold. She stood with her back to the woods, completely motionless, not reacting at all to the headlights shining directly on her. I swallowed hard, heart starting to race. I slowed down just in case she stepped into the road. But as my car passed her, I peeked into the rearview mirror and nearly swerved when I saw that she had turned around, still standing in the same spot, and her eyes seemed to follow my car in the dim red glow of the taillights. The party ended well after midnight. I was one of the last to leave after helping Darren's family clean up. When I got to my car, I noticed the tire pressure light blinking, but that always happens in early winter, so I wasn't too worried. I chose to take the same road back, the one that had already made me uneasy, and that was a mistake. I hadn't gotten far when I heard a strange grinding sound from the tires, and then the car stopped dead in the middle of the road. No power, no lights. I turned on my phone's flashlight and stepped out to check. All 4 tires had been slashed. Not popped, not deflated, but torn like by something sharp. Something with claws. Panic hit me. No cell signal, no cars, no sound. And then, the wind stopped. The forest fell into an unnatural silence. No bugs, no birds. The kind of silence that only happens when something is hunting. Then, a voice from the woods. "I see you." Female. Whispering, but close. I immediately shut off my flashlight. Stood frozen. I heard footsteps on dry leaves. Somewhere in the dark, I turned the light back on, and there she was, right at the edge of the forest. Close enough that I could see her face, wrinkled, hollow black eyes, and the lower half of her face was torn away. But she was smiling. "Do you see me?" I didn't answer. I didn't think. I just ran. The footsteps behind me grew louder. I sprinted through the night, leaving my car behind. I banged on Darren's door like a maniac. Thankfully, his mom opened it right away. I told them everything. Darren and his parents were stunned. They let me stay the night and called the police and roadside assistance immediately. But the night wasn't over. At 3:14 a.m., I was woken by tapping on the second-floor window. There were no curtains. I couldn't bring myself to look out. Then, the voice again. "I see you." I lay completely still until sunrise. When I told Darren's family, we went out to check the yard. Right below the window was a rusted knife. The police said they found no one at the abandoned shed nearby, but they did find the gutted remains of several animals in the woods. The woman, she was never found, and to this day, I still wonder if she didn't have a mouth. How could she speak so clearly? Story 2. The Midnight Taxi Driver. Sometimes you know you're being watched, but there's nowhere to run when the person watching you is behind the wheel. I had just finished a short trip to San Diego. My return flight landed right at midnight, and after picking up my luggage, I walked to the taxi stand to head home. A beat-up yellow cab rolled up beside me. The driver, a middle-aged man with a shady smile, rolled down the window. $30. I'll take you right to your door. Cheaper than an Uber, so I agreed. I loaded my own bag into the back and sat diagonally behind him. He started the car and adjusted the GPS screen, and I noticed he tilted it so I couldn't see what address he typed in. We hit the road. The night was quiet, the freeway empty. But inside the car, the air was heavy. After just a few minutes, he started asking questions. So, what were you doing in San Diego? Are your friends as pretty as you? I gave a polite laugh, but then he kept going. A beautiful girl like you traveling alone, I replied. I wasn't alone. I was visiting a friend, but you flew alone, right? That question hit like a knife. The way he was analyzing, controlling it made my skin crawl. I forced a calm tone. My boyfriend's waiting at home. Immediately he asked, "What's his name?" I went silent, then said, "I'm gonna put on my headphones now." My AirPods were dead, but I wore them anyway to cut off the conversation. I bowed my head, pretending not to hear anything else. We neared my neighborhood. I recognized the overpass just before my street, but instead of slowing down, he sped up and drove past it. I shouted, "That was my turn." "Sorry, I'll loop around," he said casually, never turning his head. I leaned to try and peek at the GPS, but he had already tilted it completely out of view. When the next intersection came up, I firmly said, "Turn right, now." He obeyed, but his eyes in the rearview mirror were full of frustration. When we stopped at a red light near my house, I looked out the window and saw a police cruiser parked in a nearby lot. I knew if I didn't act now, I might not make it home. I quietly unlocked the car door, clutched my backpack tight, and flung the door open while the light was still red. "What the hell are you doing?" he yelled, reaching for the automatic lock, but I was already out running straight for the police car. The officer rolled down the window and asked what was wrong. I said simply, "That taxi driver made me feel unsafe. He knows my address." The officer let me into the patrol car. As he drove me home, I looked back, and the taxi had vanished into the night. I thought it was over. But just minutes after I lay down in bed, came a knock at the front door. 3 knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't dare look through the peephole. He knew where I lived. He had come back. I stayed awake all night. The next morning, my neighbor called to say that a man had come knocking at my door, didn't leave anything, just stared through the window, then walked away. I called my dad. He told me he never came by last night. And I knew instantly the man who drove me home had returned. We often believe we're safe if we're inside our homes in the middle of a city, or if there's a cop nearby. But the stories today are reminders that darkness can creep in anywhere, in any form. If you've ever experienced something like this, don't hesitate to share it in the comments. And remember, sometimes the scariest thing isn't a ghost or a monster, but a human being you once thought was harmless.